Hi everyone. In today's lecture, we will discuss about for loop in Java. Fine. So basically, what is for loop? For loop is also an iterative statement, right? So for loop can be used to execute a statement or block of statements repeatedly until the condition is true. Now you might be thinking that when for loop is the best choice. See, it is best suitable if we know in advance that exactly how many iterations are required, and it is most commonly used loop in Java. Which loop? For loop. Remember this point, right? Now let's see the syntax for loop. So this is basically the syntax where we have this for, and inside the bracket we have expression 1 separated with the semicolon, expression 2 separated with the semicolon, expression 3. Then this is what inside the curly braces we have the statements. Okay, this curly braces is basically called as the for loop body. This is what for loop body. For loop body. Fine. I hope this much is clear to you. Now see, this expression 1 basically represents initialization section. Expression 2 basically represents conditional expression, and expression 3 represents increment or decrement expression. We will understand everything slowly one by one. All the things like regarding expression 1, regarding expression 2 and expression 3. Now let's understand the flowchart. So here I have the flowchart. So basically the first thing is first initialization expression will execute, right? It will execute only once. So basically this initialization section is used to declare loop variable and to do initialization of that loop variable. That is the use of this section. Now the next is condition check. Next is what? Condition check. So expression 2 represents conditional expression. So after evaluation of conditional expression, it will return true or it will return false. So suppose if condition is false, then loop body will not execute and the control will exits the for loop. And what will happen? Statements after for loop will execute. This is the case when the condition is false. Now suppose if condition is true. So if condition is true, the statements inside for loop body will execute. At last, the expression 3 will execute, which is generally increment or decrement expression. And then the condition check will take place once again. Fine. So basically statements inside the for loop body will execute multiple times until the condition is true. Until the condition is true, and the increment and decrement expression will also execute. Fine. I hope you are pretty much clear with the flow now. Let's see the next thing. So here I have provided notes for flowchart of for loop. Okay, basically we have the description here, explanation, so you can take this, it is helpful for you. Fine. I have mentioned each and everything what will happen in the case of true, in the case of false, and regarding the initialization section also I have mentioned. So please take these things, right? Now let's discuss some important rules regarding for loop. So the first rule is all three sections of the loop are optional. So in this example, see here, all the three expressions are missing. Do we have initialization expression? No. Do we have conditional expression? No. Do we have expression 3 here? No. All the three expressions, expression 1, expression 2, expression 3 is missing in this case. Then also, here You will not get any compile time error, you will not get any runtime error. It will compile fine, it will run fine. Let me show you this thing. So go to the notepad. I have this basic structure ready. So you just have to write this, then take a for loop and use this semicolon semicolon. Okay. Now inside this I want system dot out dot println. Then I'm writing here inside for loop body. Save this with a class name dot java. So for loop demo dot java. Okay, save this. Go to the location where this file got saved. So here is my file. Okay, see here for loop demo. So at this location, open the cmd. Open the cmd. Now compile the file. So java c, then for loop demo dot java. See, it compiled fine, right? Try to run this java for loop demo. Hit enter. See, you are getting the output inside for loop, right? But it is keep on running infinite number of time. So you have to terminate with the control C. Fine. Use the control C to terminate this. So why it ran infinite number of time? That you should think, right? See, when it will run infinite number of time, exactly when the condition is always true, then it will run. Then only JVM will execute this statement infinite number of time. If the condition is true, means expression 2 is what true. So you know what happened internally here? Internally, JVM will place true in that section. In which section? In condition section. Let's see this. See here. If we are not taking any expression in conditional section, so compiler will place true in that section. So internally what will happen? Compiler will place true here in the condition section. Because of that reason, JVM is executing this line, executing this statement infinite number of times. Fine. Clear with the point? Clear with the internals? What is happening behind the scene? Now the second rule is curly braces. Curly braces are optional if you want to take only one statement inside for loop body. But that one statement should not be declarative statement. Otherwise, you will get compile time error. Right? These things we have already discussed in our while and do while loop lecture. So I'm not taking this point again and again. If you want to know what is the logic and what error you will get, so you can see our while loop video or do while loop video. Fine. Now let's see the next rule. The next rule is third rule. So in case of loops, we must not declare loop variables as final variables because we must perform increment or decrement operation over loop variables. For example, see, I have this example. So basically I have this loop variable final int a is equal to 1, right? So this variable is what? Final, means the value can't be changed further. Okay, but see here, see in this section at the place of expression 3, what you are trying to do? You are trying to perform increment operation over loop variable, which is basically a final type of variable. And because of that reason, you will get compile time error saying cannot assign a value to a final variable a. Clear with this rule also? Fine. If you want to see this, I can show you right away. Go to this, fine. And in the initialization section, what I am taking? Final int a is equal to 1 and condition a is smaller than 5 and a plus plus. Fine, save this. Go back to the CMD and try to compile this. See, you got the error. Cannot assign a value to a final variable a. So I hope this thing is pretty much clear to you. Fine. Now let's see the next rule. The next rule is the fourth rule, that is Java program should not contain any unreachable statement. Now tell me one thing. If I will take like this, I have this example. See here, I have for loop. In the initialization section, I have int a is equal to 1. So a is basically 1. And see the condition. Condition you have set to true. You are not using any expression like if a is smaller than 5, like this expression you are not using. You are just writing true. It means it is always true. Am I correct? So as the condition is always true, this system.out.println inside for loop body will execute infinite number of time by the JVM. And because of that reason, this statement will never got a chance to execute. So compiler will check this thing, and compiler will notice this. Okay, the condition is always going to true. It means this statement is not going to be execute. So why to allow these things, right? Because of that reason, compiler will throw one error, that is unreachable statement. Fine, it will say, hey boss, this is unreachable statement. Why you are taking this statement here? So if you want to see this, I can show you. Just change here condition as true, and outside the for loop, take one more system dot out dot println and say like this, outside for loop. Fine, save this, go to the CMD, okay, and compile this. See, you got the error. Okay, cannot assign a value to a final variable a. Hold on, I have this final variable right in the program, so let me remove this also first, then only I can show you this. Now compile this. See, unreachable statement. Which statement is unreachable? System.out.println outside for loop. Now it is clear to you. You can't take the unreachable statements. Java program should not contain unreachable statements. So the next point, the next rule is the fifth rule. So see this fifth rule. So the fifth rule is, in initialization section, we can declare multiple variables. We can declare multiple variables and we can write any valid statement as expression 1. But it is always recommended to provide for loop variable. Fine. So basically I mean to say is, in initialization section, we can declare multiple variables separated by comma and all should be of same type. Fine. For example, this, see here, this is my initialization section, right? Because semicolon is present here. So this is what my initialization section, and I am initializing two variable. One is a is equal to 1, another one is b is equal to 2. Is it correct? So I am initializing two variable and both are of int type. So it is 100% valid. It will compile fine. It will run fine. If you want to see this thing, I can show you. Go back to the program, remove the unreachable statement, and int a is equal to what, 1, and b is equal to 2. And then here I want a condition like a is smaller than 10. Saving this and going back to the CMD and trying to compile this. See, compiled fine, no problem, right? Now I want to run. So Java for loop demo. What is the output? See, inside for loop, how many times? 4, 8, and 9 times. How many times you got? 9 times. Why 9 times I got inside for loop body? Let me explain you this thing first. So see, initial value of a is what? A is what? 1. So condition check will take place. Like this is the condition, right? A is smaller than 10. So 1 is smaller than 10. True. So it true. If it is true, then go and execute the statement which is present inside the for loop body. So one time inside for loop will come, right? Now what you are doing, next thing is a plus plus, performing an increment operation on this a. Now the value of a becomes what? 2. So if it is 2, 2 is smaller than 10, right? So true. Then same statement dot out dot println inside for loop body statement will execute. Like this, suppose like this, one point will come where the value of a will become what? 9. So 9 is smaller than 10, true. And after that, when increment take place, the a value will become what? 10. So is 10 is smaller than 10? No, false. So if it is false, then come out from the for loop, right? That is the reason, you are getting 9 times the same thing in the output, that is inside for loop body. I hope this thing is now clear to you. Now the next example. See, this is my example here. And what I have mentioned, you know, inside the initialization section, you can take any valid Java statement. And inside the expression 3, which is basically we are using for increment and decrement. But inside this section also, you can take any valid Java statement. See this point? In expression 3, we can take any valid Java statement, but it is always recommended to provide loop variable increment and decrement operation in this section, right? But if you are writing this also, it is fine, but it is not making any sense. Fine, printing this thing, is it making any sense? No, it is not making any sense. Just for the rule's sake, I'm, explaining you these things. So what will happen in this case, when you will execute this, you will get this thing in the output. How many times? Infinite number of times. Because what will happen? See here, the condition is always true. And you are not using any break statement also. So the condition is always true, so it will never come out of the for loop. So you will get this. Why you are getting this thing? Let me explain you this thing also. What we have learned when we were seeing the flowchart, the first thing is initialization section will execute. So this statement is going to execute first, right? So if this will execute, so one time you will get initialization section in the output, only one time, not infinite time. One time you will get what? Initialization section in the output. Initialization section. Fine. This thing you will get only one time in the output, and then the story start. So the condition is true, so execute this, means inside for loop body. Then what will happen? Expression 3 will execute. Basically this is expression 3, right? So system.out.println increment and decrement section will come in the output, and these two things are going to come infinite number of times. Because what will happen if the condition is true? So this will execute, again this will execute, again condition check, again this will execute, again this will execute. Like this, a loop will form, and you will get this thing infinite number of times. But why you are getting this initialization section only once? Because we see in the flowchart that initialization section will execute only once at the starting of the loop. Fine with this point? If you want to see this thing also, let me show you right away. It's good to see each and everything. So here, let us take simple system dot out dot println. Fine, inside this, what I'm taking? Initialization section. Fine. And here condition is true, and here I'm taking again one statement in the place of expression 3, that is system.out.println, and then increment and decrement section. Fine. So I hope this is perfect, right? Save this, go back to the CMD and clear this screen first. Compile this. Okay, fine. Okay, I forgot one thing. Here it should be separated with the semicolon, right? Save this again. Now go back and compile. See, compiled fine. Run it. Run this. See, What is this? Inside for loop body, and increment and decrement section is coming infinite number of times. If you will go up, see, this initialization section executes only one time in the starting. Then this thing is executing infinite number of times. That's what I was explaining to you. I hope now this thing is pretty much clear to you. So this is all about the rule for loop in Java. So thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe our YouTube channel.